How are you? Hi, Ben.
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am good. Good. Thanks for participating today.
My pleasure.
Awesome. Well, as Izzy mentioned, I'm Robert Wallace. I'm a partner at Tallwave. We're a customer experience design company, and I have the distinct pleasure of having a great conversation today with Ben Castro at Eargo. I'll give him a moment to introduce himself and talk a little bit about his background, but it's a pretty cool company for hearing aids that my family has a long history of folks that have the need for hearing aids. So I no doubt I'm going to probably need them too somewhere down the line. So I'm excited that there are cool brands like Eargo that are doing really amazing stuff around the customer experience and the product. But why don't we just jump right in, Ben, and just talk to us for a couple minutes about your background and what you've been up to.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Robert. So I've been a marketer for 25 years, mostly direct-to-consumer brands, creating and growing them. I think the biggest brand I've ever created was ING Direct, which started in the late 90s, and we started it in Canada. I'm Canadian. I'm Canadian A. Uh, and So we started that in the late 90s in Canada. We took that to 9 countries around the globe, including the
Wow,
United States. We turned that into a $60 billion bank in
geez.
less than 10 years, which unfortunately the financial crisis kind of ate it up. But aside from that, it was a tremendously successful bank and a tremendously successful brand. The key to it was we were trying to change the paradigm at the time. I mean, if you think back to the late 90s or the 2000s, nobody was doing online banking. Nobody was doing direct banking. You always went to your branch, branch, branch. And we're trying to change that whole mindset. Today, who the hell goes into a branch,
Right.
right? It's like nobody. It took a while for that to change, and I was proud of what we were able to achieve there.
No doubt.
Another great brand that I've created was Kobo. Kobo is the second largest e-reading company in the world, behind Kindle. No one in the U.S. should have heard of Kobo because we decided I think it was 2011 to go after the rest of the world and leave Kindle. Already had a big market share here. Leave that to Kindle. So if you go everywhere else in the world, everyone's heard of Kobo, but less so in the U.S. And that was also started out of Toronto, and then I was brought to Eargo to kind of do the same thing. Again, change the paradigm. With Kobo, it was changing the paradigm from the written book to the actual e-book. And we're trying to do that now with hearing aids. And,
Yeah.
hearing aids, when I first heard it, I was like, hearing aids? Those old ugly things behind the ear. But then I saw the Kobo technology. It's so small, it fits inside your ear, you can't even see it.
Yeah.
But beyond that is changing the business model. Because right now, the
Hmm.
process for getting a hearing aid is unfortunately an injustice to the consumer. The way it is today is you're dragged kicking and screaming into a hearing professional's office, and they're going to look at you and they're going to treat you like a sick patient. Now imagine if you had glasses, you went to your optometrist, and your optometrist said, "You know what, Robert, you're sick. You need
Yeah.
glasses." You'd be like, "Excuse me."
That's right.
Just give me the prescription, right? But that's the way it's kind of treated today, and it's not. I mean, you should just be able to go buy hearing aids, put it in your ear, and you're good. And so what we're trying to do is basically democratize the whole industry, and really bring hearing to the masses. And it's a big issue. It's one of the biggest health issues. It's the third biggest health issue hitting the United States, right behind our heart disease and arthritis. There are 50 million people in this country with hearing loss. 50 million, and that number is growing dramatically by the day. And there's 500 million in the world. And that number, I think the WHO estimates by the year 2040 or 2050, there's going to be 1 billion people in the world with hearing loss. It's growing fast. And why? Because of this. Because we're listening to things at unsafe levels and destroying our hearing. And so
Yeah.
Eargo, our mission in life is to help people hear. And hopefully you'll never use our product. That would
Right.
be the number one beautiful thing. But if you do, you don't need to change your lifestyle. You can continue being the wonderful person that you are. Continue living that wonderful life that you have. Just put in a set of eargos and keep living. And that's
Yeah.
what I've been here doing.
Well, man, it's pretty exciting, and you think about I'm of the age where there's sort of a weird stigma around it, around hearing aids, and there shouldn't be. And usually it's because they were big devices that were very visible. Um, And now you have these products that you don't even know are there. And I think that's really empowering to a lot of people. And that goes beyond just the overall performance of the product. So I think it's really cool what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you've hit on a couple cool topics, and you talk about your background. You've worked for communications companies, FinServ companies. You've sold digital books, media, and now you're in hearing aids. Um, I've had a similar background where I've gone from shoes to like uh, farming equipment, and
Yeah.
for example, and to me, what's the common thread? It all has to do with the brand for me. But I'm curious, what would you how do you think about the common threads that you've learned throughout those, or how do you view them as different industries or the same industries, or how would you think about the common thread among all of those, your varied background?
Yeah. I mean, for me, the key to D2C is brand awareness.
Hmm.
There's no doubt brand awareness that if everyone knows your brand, then that's half the battle.
Yeah.
But in a D2C that operates differently, where you eat what you kill,
Yeah.
it's a lot tougher because you're given a marketing budget, but then you're saying you're given, okay, you have to have this much acquisition associated with it. So where is there money to do brand awareness? Yeah, now you can do brand and acquisition at the same time, but it takes a lot longer to achieve that brand awareness. And for me, that magical number of brand awareness where things start to really turn for a company is around 30%. After that, you become what I like to say a quasi household name. Like basically, when someone brings you up in conversation, most people say, "Oh yeah, I've heard of them," right? And that's half the battle.
And
And so that
you're saying 30% of people would have that recollection.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Aided awareness. If you can get the
Yep.
30% aided awareness, I think you're in good, strong territory. And so for a DTC, it's how fast you can get there is key to your success.
Yeah.
Um, but another piece of that success is understanding your customer.
Mm.
It's not just putting out advertising or putting out um, SEM advertising if everyone's looking for a hearing aid or whatnot. You really have to know your customer. And for the bank, it was very, very different. We had to really understand who our customer was. And even for books, I mean, we did a huge study at Kobo that looked at customer segmentation, and we built 7 consumer profiles because when I showed up, who was our target customer? They would say, well, everybody can read. I was like,
Yeah.
that's not a target. Yeah, we need a target. We broke up the world into 7 consumer profiles, and we chose 2 that had the highest propensity to go with Kobo. And we introduced all these profiles and the 2 in particular targets to the whole company, and it changed the whole company. I mean, product development was not using them and developing products for those 2 profiles and what they loved, and our media agencies were using them, and PR agencies were using it. So understanding your client, who they are, how they consume media, what they consume, what media they consume, and then how to talk to them properly in the
Right.
in the language that they understand. Because you can't talk to a Gen X or a Gen Z or a millennial the same way you talk to a boomer, right? They're different languages, especially when it comes to digital.
Yeah.
So understanding the consumer,
Yeah.
and then once you understand that, tailor make your communications to that consumer. I think that's another key learning for me that going across industries has held true.
Yeah. I really love that. When we spoke, getting ready for this, you mentioned the idea of it really stood out to me that it's not just the media or the medium that might be the same across customer segments, but how you're talking to them and how you're speaking to them is so important. Um, so social media for one demographic just simply isn't the same as it is for another demographic, how they interact with it, even down to our phones. And I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, especially with boomers. Yes, boomers are online. Yes, they're on social media, but if you really dig into it, right, they're really on one social media platform. It's Facebook, a little bit of Twitter, right? They might be on TikTok, they might be on it, but overall, right, the overwhelming majority seem to be on Facebook. But it's not like they spend hours and hours and hours on Facebook. They come in, they read their feed, they communicate with their friends, and they move on. I mean, social media isn't really the the way they perceive social to be. To them, social is actually meeting up with their friends, or picking up this and calling their friends, actually using a cell phone for the phone part of it. If you ask a boomer what this is for, this is a phone. If you ask a Gen Zer, this is a portal to all my apps and my communication devices. I mean, I think I said to you, my son has one, and he's probably made 5 calls in his entire life, and I think 3 of them have been to me. They don't see this as a phone, and so it's understanding who that target is and how they use the mediums that they're using.
That's awesome. So switching to digital channels, and let's talk a little bit about the how and how you build a brand and inject creativity into not only into brands but into digital channels within a brand. So I think there used to be this thought that digital and creative were sort of separate and separated and siloed off. And that's certainly not the case anymore. What are your thoughts about creativity through digital channels?
Yeah, I think the beauty of digital, and I've been doing digital advertising since the 90s.
Yeah.
The beauty of it is that it's 100% measurable, unlike every other media channel out there. And now the other media channels are starting to get there. They're going more and more digital. TV's going very much digital. Even out of home is going digital, right? But since the beginning, the beauty of online was you can actually see who's seen your ad, who's interacted with your ad, who's clicked on your ad, who's converted from your ad. And it's irrefutable, right? And that's the beauty of it, is the measurement piece. And I think, we've been so focused on it and how it converts, and we start saying, okay, let's change the click-through here, let's change what we do on the CTA, let's change the color, let's change the image, let's change all this. And we basically turn this into alchemy, into a science, right? And that's great. It's kind of like direct mail meets digital. But at the same time, when you start doing all those things, you almost sacrifice creativity to a degree. So it's about, okay, how do we pull this back and inject more creativity in there? And it is possible. You just have to understand the medium and understand how the person interacts with the medium. Again, we've done some interesting ads in the past online, and just to get people to click, but using, again, the brand spirit, brand tone in a brand ad, and they've worked, whether it be video or display banners. At the bank, we were mainly a savings bank, and I remember one of the best digital ads I did is I literally put in a big box ad, I put the word Jesus saves, right? And that was an ad that got all kinds of clicks, right? But it also was it was the cheeky, irreverent brand that ING Direct was. Same thing with Eargo. We had some ads where we had a campaign that said, sometimes missing the most important words, some of the smallest of words, means a whole world of difference.
Oh,
So we
yeah.
had an ad, for instance, that said, are you hard? But in kind of a subtext was of hearing, right? So missing those 2 words would have made that a completely different situation, a completely different inference. But that's exactly, what the tail of the tape was for the brand. And it's about getting people to understand and associate and go, yeah, right, it does make a difference. You're trying to build that affinity
Yeah.
creatively between the consumer and the brand.
So the measurability is amazing, and that you can start to really measure those kind of creative concepts, that even if they're more edgy, you at least get to know that, hey, this either bombed or it really took off and takes the subject activity out of it. How do you find how are you using data and analytics to feed that creativity? Because I think that's part of going the other direction. The creative typically wouldn't have had all that data and analytics. Now it's almost how does it feed being more creative? Have you found that to be the case?
Oh, absolutely. If anything, it's you use it as your testing ground, almost like a petri dish, because you can get data back in real time. I can put stuff out there. Like, if I was to do the same kind of methodology with TV, my
Mhm.
God, I would imagine producing 1,000 TV spots a year, changing some piece here, some piece there. Like the expense would be enormous, the time would be enormous, and by the time you get the data back, you're looking at weeks. So, but with digital, you don't have that issue, right? You can literally put something out there and see how it works, see what resonates, see what, from a creative perspective, what's working, what's not. And I can take those learnings back and extract that and pull that into some of the other
yeah,
mediums that we're doing, right? So it literally
yeah.
becomes, you go digital first to understand creatively what works, what resonates, and then you pull that
Mhm.
back and you feed everything else with that.
Yeah, it's totally flipping it on its head, and I it also it demands that creative perhaps moves at a different pace than it used to, because you mentioned you may not get feedback for a long time. Being creative in such a shorter time frame where there's quick turns can, I think, can be a challenge.
Oh yeah, and that's why we have a hybrid model of a
Yeah,
creative team. We have a creative team in house, and we use agencies externally, and it seems to really work. When you need something that has to be turned around very very quickly, the internal team is great. They understand the brand, they understand exactly what to do. They understand the business objective already. You don't have to do much briefing. It's just churn it out as quickly as possible, and that speed is so critical with digital and with everything else that we do.
yeah,
But then when you think about the big campaigns, it's always nice to have an agency out there to help you think out of the box, because sometimes we're so stuck in the weeds that we can't see some of the bigger ideas, and an outside point of view can help you find those nuggets that could lead to a great idea.
yeah, for sure. Um, so you touched on other channels becoming more digital, even out of home. With everything going digital and with all of our lives being digital for the most part, uh, multi-touch attribution becomes an issue. How Tell us a little bit about what that means to you, how you're addressing it, and why it's important.
Yeah, MTA, multi-touch attribution, is I think one of the biggest challenges that marketers have today, yet
Yeah,
it's one of the biggest opportunities as well.
yeah,
We know that looking at last click or first click, you're going to get data, but is that the true journey that a customer took? And when you
mhm,
specifically look at a product like ours, hearing aids, where people take weeks, if not months, to do their shopping, to do their analyzing, to ask friends, to look at the reviews before buying a product like this, doing last click is really an injustice, or even doing first click, because they came to the site several times. They saw several ads. Which one was it? Well, in actuality, it was a combination, right? It could have been the TV ad they saw first. Then they went online, they Googled Eargo. So there's your first click, right? Then they saw it, they went to the site, they read about it, they went read some reviews, they saw an Eargo ad, they clicked that. Great, they saw that. Okay, they decided, okay, I'm gonna think about this for a little bit, but then they received a direct mail piece, right? So
yeah,
which one was the one that actually converted them? The truth is, all of them did,
right.
right? It was that constant reminder. So having multi-touch really really helps, and having a we use a rocker box here at Eargo, and they're great in that you give them all the data, and they will sort out from the customer journey perspective how many touches they had, and how many length of time between the touches, what the combinations were, and whatnot. And you can actually try to optimize and optimize your media to not just what's driving the conversion, but what's driving the conversion overall.
Mhm. Yeah, it's fascinating because all of the on one hand things are becoming everything's more measurable, but on the other hand, it's still going to take all of those channels getting your reach and awareness up to where it needs to be, and you may be doing things that actually are old, quote unquote, old school, like out of home or like direct mail.
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating that some of the, as much as things have changed, some of it has also stayed very much the same, which is you need reach, you need frequency, and that over time maybe we can change it quicker and maybe we can learn faster, but over time those things still work.
Yeah, and it's true. I think what's in its renaissance right now is in fact direct mail, and I think it's a lot to do. I mean, before, when you used to get mail, you used to get a stack of mail this high, and you would just quickly filter through your mail. That's junk. These are my bills or whatever it is. Great. Now, people don't receive much mail anymore. So when they do, they actually take the time and they read it. So I think that's why we're seeing a lot better conversion rates on direct mail these days, and many more marketers are now trying it out again and seeing success in it again. And I think that the key there, though, is there's only so much information you can put on a piece, right? It's
Yeah.
how do I push this person into digital, where they can then learn a lot more about Eargo. They could interact, they could chat with someone, they could sign up for a newsletter. They could start their educational process. That I think is the key, is pushing them online where they can learn more, grabbing their attention, at the same time getting them to an online format. SMS is another good way we do that, and we do that not just with direct mail, but with TV, right? Trying to get them automatically into a digital format where we can start to communicate them and start giving them more information that they need to make their decision.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And it makes me think about once they're on your site, or once they're engaging with Eargo, um, hearing aids are a relatively complicated purchase, right? At best, I mean, this is a very complicated medical device. How have you, or how do you all think about the customer experience insofar as how do you get the people properly educated and feeling comfortable that they can buy something this complex that's going to go in your ear all the time, uh, to make an online purchase?
That is the question we've been grappling with,
Yeah.
and since day one. And the reality is, um, it depends on where you are in your hearing aid journey. If
Mhm.
you're just starting out, and a lot of people are, so you don't know anything about hearing aids, telling you about the speeds and feeds and all these different features of the hearing aid, you're not there. You're not ready for it. What we really need to tell you and communicate to you is what hearing aids can do for you, how it can improve your quality of life, right? And how it can improve your relationships and so on. And so you start there at a much more higher level, and then you slowly start to bring them down, right? Whereas if they're already a current hearing aid user, they're just looking for the latest tech. They don't need to know how this improves their. They already know how hearing aids improve their life, right? So don't waste your time. You got to shift them immediately into, here are the speeds and fees. Here's what makes this product so great, and here's it's so easy to get started, and it really depends on, again, know your customer, know what they need and what their needs are, and then feeding them that information.
Yeah. Are you finding, you mentioned all the growth of all the, uh, a billion people in the coming years are gonna need this. That must span demographically from quite young to the very old. And I think most people probably think about it in terms of those folks that are at least middle age and older. How are you thinking about the different targets that way, and how you're going to speak to them, and how you're going to try to move them through that funnel to get more comfortable? Thanks.
I mean, most people that have hearing loss are people that are generally over 60,
Yeah.
65. And hearing loss is natural. It's something that happens as you age. There's nothing wrong. It's just like your vision starts to get weaker, your
Yeah.
hearing starts to degrade. It's not, the other thing about it is that people often don't notice it, right?
Mm.
And that's why they're in denial of it, because your hearing is constantly on. It's the one sense that's constantly on. You can close your
Mm.
eyes. You only use your touch when you touch something, and smell
Yeah.
and taste. But your hearing, I mean, you'll hear something in the middle of the night and wakes you up, right? It's on 24 hours. So when you slowly hear it degrade, you don't notice it. But people will notice it around you. Your TV volume is higher. They're telling you to lower the TV. You may compensate by asking people to repeat themselves, or you learn to read lips. So you're building this barrier, and the question is how can we overcome that barrier, and help you to find a solution. So it's a complicated journey, But it doesn't have to be more complicated when you're seeking a solution. The key is really to provide a very simple, easy solution, which is what Eargo does.
Yeah, makes me interesting. Uh, speaking, so I need to ask my obligatory pandemic question. So I'm curious. In a way, how did Eargo? In a way, it seemed DTC obviously has taken some leaps forward because we were all locked down and it had to. That, and I think coupled with some of the cool things that Eargo has going, like video checkups and those type of things, those in an unfortunate circumstances, those things bode well for Eargo, I would think. Is that what you guys found?
So there's no doubt, there were a lot of clinics that closed during the
Yeah.
pandemic.
Yep.
We probably saw some of that overflow, but our growth has been on a very solid trajectory, and we luckily we didn't see any effects of the pandemic last year or even this year to that growth. And so it's really about maintaining our growth. We keep charting. We're focused on our future and how we're going to get there, and so far it hasn't affected our business to any degree, and so we're pretty thankful about that.
That's awesome. Um, I'm gonna, before I jump into a different topic, we do have a Q&A that I think is relevant to one of my other conversations. So the question was, why not treat it like a wearable and to completely rethink the stigma of it, right? Like make it like an Aura ring, or make it like an Apple Watch or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You guys thought about that? I know it ties into an app, so perhaps you're already thinking about such things. Is that anything that perhaps you guys thought about, even just to rebrand it as a wearable versus a medical device?
Well, I think Eargo is a class one, class two, depending what you're going to get,
Yeah,
FDA cleared device. So it is a hearing aid at the
yeah,
end of the day, and there are a lot of other solutions out there that they're called hearing amplifiers or PSAPs
mm,
that are not hearing aids. And there's a big difference between those types of products. And I think it's important that people understand that Eargo is there to help people with their hearing loss,
yeah,
um, and um, and uh, and not necessarily just amplify everything into your ear. So it is a specific hearing aid. Whether or not it could be a hearable, I mean, by definition, I guess every hearing aid is a hearable and whatnot.
yeah.
You could put special things, bells and whistles in it, and we have an app where you can adjust things and customize your Eargos for any kind of setting that you want. If you're
Mhm.
in a restaurant or watching a movie, you can customize these things. You can even call in to one of our or chat with one of our licensed hearing professionals, and they could download custom profiles into your Eargo, so they can you could say, oh, I'm having trouble listening to this, listen to that. They'll say, oh, okay, let me try this out for a couple of days. They download it into your Eargos. Next thing you know, you're trying it. Oh, everything's great. So you can continually adjust them and improve them, which is
Ah,
great. And so it is I guess a hearable in every sense, but by the broad definition, I would argue every hearing aid is a hearable.
yeah, I suppose that's true. That's super cool. I didn't realize you could tweak it virtually, which is pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. Tell me about we're talking about digital channels. Amazon's a reality to almost any DTC business these days. How does Eargo think about Amazon, and how do you think about it in terms of your overall channel strategy?
So Eargo is for sale on Amazon today.
Yeah.
It's you know an important part of our mix. We feel like again, know your customer. A lot of our customers shop on Amazon. They like it. They feel it's secure. It's a brand that they've been buying things through, and they trust. And so seeing Eargo there really helps them. Gives them the confidence, and again, it's part of the shopping criteria for some. Others, no. Others, will learn about Eargo there, and then again continue their journey, and then eventually come to Eargo directly. It really depends, but for certain that having it part of our journey, we thought it was important, and that's why we're there.
Yeah. What are some of the digital channels that you're finding are particularly what are the ones that are just crushing it for you right
Well, I mean, Google SEM is always crushing it,
now?
right? And that's a given. If someone's searching for a hearing aid, you got a good chance of selling them a hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Um, uh, let's see. Are there any other questions from the crowd? Nope. At the moment. Okay. So, tell me a little bit more about, so you are doing Google SEM. What else about what's on the landscape for Eargo? Obviously, new products. How are you thinking about new ways to get the product into the hands of your consumers?
You know, that is truly the end goal. We know that
Yeah.
when we get someone to put this thing in their ear,
Mhm.
um, it's sold immediately. It's life changing, and for us, that's my greatest sense of satisfaction actually in this job. Is, and if you've seen many videos, I've seen it live, where I see someone take an Eargo, a grown man, 67 years old, take an Eargo, put it in his ear, and then just start to cry
Right.
because his world has now changed. And that is what Eargo is all about. It's about bringing people their life back, right? Giving people that which they've lost, and they can rekindle. We have so many anecdotes like that. Like my favorite one is man and woman. Man gets out of bed. First thing he does is put his Eargos in. Gets out of bed and he hears something, and he turns to his wife and says, "How long's the floor been creaking?" And she looks at him and says, 15 years. Right?
Oh
It's
my
like,
God.
oh my God. It's like that it's those kind of things that you don't really understand, those little things that amplify your life until they're gone. And then when you get it back, it's like you've got a new lease on life. And that's really, what we're doing. And so for us, in terms of how we're reaching them, we're trying a full court press on all, again, using MTA, trying to figure out which
Yeah.
channels are really working, and continuing to get the message out, because that getting the message out and having people improve their lives is what we're all about.
Right. No, quite. I mean, that's trying to build that emotional connection is critical, and the fact that your product considers their journey, I think, is one of the different, that alone is a differentiating factor. And the fact that it's taking away all of the things that most people would have fought getting a hearing aid in the first place, I think it is a huge benefit, and it's really inspiring. Um, Excellent. So Izzy, are you on? Okay. Um, Tell me, you uh you push out testimonials like that?
Oh yeah, yeah. If you come to our site, you'll see all kinds of testimony and video testimonials. The beautiful thing is we get this feedback unsolicited all the time. I
Yeah.
think it's just people, they're so overwhelmed, so overjoyed how much Eargo has helped them. They just automatically come back and say, this thing has changed my life. Thank you so much. There was another one that came through this morning on, I don't remember which it was a third party site, and we saw it, and this person again was saying, thank God for Eargo. Eargo's around. They changed their lives, and for them, the beauty about Eargo is that it costs relatively less than the average price of hearing aids out there. So our business model allows us to save money. You get the best tech for it. It's the latest tech. It fits completely inside your ear where it's invisible. So if you're a bit vanity conscious, especially first time hearing aid,
Yeah.
they don't want to have this thing behind their ear. Put it in your ear where no one can see it. It,
Yeah.
it just it makes them feel like um, we're their little secret. We're empowering them. We're making them the best person that they can be, and nobody has to know but them. And it's it's something that's really interesting that's developed that we're starting to understand of how people view Eargo.
And explain a little bit more about the business model. How is it different than how you would buy a traditional hearing aid?
So the traditional route is, I mean, you may go start at your doctor. They give you a referral. They go to a hearing clinic. You make an appointment. You
Mhm.
go in and see them. They do a hearing test. If you have any issues, they may select a hearing aid. You come back for a fitting. You select the hearing aid, come back
Yeah.
for a fitting. Then there might be a few fittings afterwards as they adjust. So you're looking at, a bit of time before you actually are using a hearing aid. Whereas Eargo, there's no appointments necessary. You literally can buy Eargo. It'll show up at your house in a couple days. You put them in. You call one of our hearing professionals. They'll walk you through. It's pretty easy. You literally put them in. You could just tap your ear and you can change settings on it, or you can use the app. And you're ready to go rock and roll, and you try them out. And if you feel like you need some more adjustments, you just again call us back up or chat, and then they'll make some more adjustments. And before you know it, literally within days, you're hearing again,
Yeah.
and you didn't lose any of the support because we still have licensed hearing professionals on staff to support you as well.
I, I love that because it happens. You see it a lot, but it just dawned on me again. When you're focused on the customer experience, you look at what the existing experience is, and you look at all the things that stink in that experience, and then you build it around, like, just wipe those things out. Just don't do those things, and next thing you know, you have something that's pretty amazing. And if you look at the companies that are really disruptive, they look at those things that in the experience really don't make it very fun for any friction points between the consumer and customer and the company. Just don't do those things, right? Do it a different way and get rid of those things. And it's remarkable what you can do when you do that, when you simplify what they actually are trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the hallmark to changing any industry is
Yeah.
give people what they want. And sometimes people don't even know what they want until you show them because they don't know what I mean. The famous Henry Ford quote was,
Yeah.
if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said, "Build me a better horse," right? And it's kind of the same thing. It's like you have to have an idea, have faith in your idea, but understand what those pain points are in the current process, and then put it out there and see, and people will tell you if it sticks or not. It was the same thing with ING Direct. It was
Yeah.
direct banking, online banking, way before its time, and people gravitated toward it. Today, nobody banks at a branch,
Yeah.
right? And so it took 20 years, but that's where we are, and I have a feeling this is going to be the same thing.
I
People are going to love the telehealth. If anything, the pandemic has really accelerated telehealth.
Yeah.
People were, I guess, forced to use telehealth, and I think they're starting to realize it's very convenient. It works,
Yeah.
and I think that really helps propel businesses like ours.
Yeah, no doubt. I was an ING Direct customer, just so you know. So you won me over back in the day when when I was around, and I loved it. I loved the everything about it. So, um, okay, Izzy's back on. Well, hey Ben, thank you so much for your time, and thank you to the audience for listening in today.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much. And it's always so interesting to learn about how you're communicating with your audience and connecting with your consumer, especially when I feel like something like hearing aids already has that split perception. So really interesting. And thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
You bet.
So next up, I'm really excited to welcome to the stage Kimberly Massey, the global marketing leader at Kimberly-Clark.